Hello there and welcome to the Spread, NESN's Football Picks Podcast, back for the 2023 season. It is week one of the NFL season. I am NESN.com's Mike Cole, joined once again and as always by Ricky Doyle. Ricky, we're back.
We are.
I mean, we were back last week, but nobody actually really consumed that content.
And we gave people a couple of weeks of runway to get into that.
And like we've talked about this a myriad times. It's always tricky with doing the preview stuff. You know, it's just we haven't found a great. I thought we did fine, but
the cards that we were dealt, I feel like we played the hand fairly well.
This is the main event.
Oh yeah, now we're getting into games.
That's right. This is what the people want. This is what they come here for. So we will get into similar to the way we've done in the past this year. We'll do our three favorite picks, each of us, 3 unit, 2 unit, 1 unit. I think we'll touch on maybe the Patriots game, and we might do a little resurrection of
circles back
of a past segment
so
as we get out of here. So a lot to really kind of get into. Is there anything you want to talk about off the top here?
I did. I got myself a nice tea for today. I feel like I saw you with this a couple of weeks ago.
I always got my tea.
This is a long-standing thing for you. I decided I'm going to give it a whirl. I could, cheers to a new season.
Cheers. It's like 95 degrees outside.
Did realize that this probably wasn't the best day to debut the tea on my part. It is. It's like 85 out, so it's
hot.
Psychopath move, but nevertheless, the tea is poured, the water is filled, and we are ready to roll.
Our cup is runneth over.
Yeah.
What's your excitement level for the NFL right now? Is it are you totally into it? Is this something we can get into a discussion about?
Yeah.
How things start to suck more as you get older. I think that's kind of where I'm at, maybe.
Right.
The excitement, maybe not where it used to be. Weather could be a factor here. Where are you at going into the 2023 NFL season? Are you pumped for Sunday?
I'm pretty into it right now.
Good for you. I'm happy
for you. Well, you're not?
You make your point. I'll get to it.
I don't know. I think it was the the weather last week factored in it when you had there was a little fall.
Yeah.
Fall
It'd be better if that was this year.
Not this week, but no, I think it was, now that college football is underway, I think that sort of started to suck me in, but I didn't watch a whole lot of college football. I watched a couple games this past weekend, but yeah, I'm ready. I'm just kind of easing into it, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, I just think the weather affects my life way too much. I know this is just a trope at this point, talking about the weather on this stupid show, but when it is 95 degrees out, I just have a hard time mentally conceptualizing that it's football season, and I know that this is the new normal. Like, it's hot for the first month of the season at least. I mean, it'll be October and it'll still be warm. It won't feel like the fall. It's just something I need to reckon with at some point in my life, and I'll get there. I'm working on it. I've got a few more things going on in my life than I have in the past. So I will say, like, the idea of Sunday sitting around all day watching football is just not as feasible for me. So I think that takes some of the excitement out of it. But, like, I'm talking myself into this Thursday night game. We won't really touch on it a ton, but, like, the Lions play the Chiefs, and, like, that game will come on, the music will play, and I think I'll be into it. Same thing Sunday and Monday night. There's some good games then, too. So I think as I get older, I'm more of – and it's funny because then as I get older, I don't watch as much of it. I will really enjoy 2 quarters of Thursday night's game and then go to bed and feel, then recheck in on Sunday. So
that's what it is, though. It doesn't really hit you until, like, that – like – when you're midway through the first quarter on Sunday, and there's all of the games going on, like when you get that first cut in on Sunday, if you're watching like an individual game as opposed to red zone, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, we're starting to find a flow here. But until you get in there, it's
tough. It takes a little getting used to. But I will say too, like, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of exciting. This is our first football season with legalized betting. I think that kind of gets me a little more juiced up for it, too.
Sure. Yeah.
Although I'm afraid to pull the trigger on a lot of stuff. But that's being said,
you actually have to put your money where your mouth is.
Now I'm saying I kind of have to
do
this. For
years, we just spoke in hypotheticals. And
I'm going to be broke as a joke by week 3. So, I'll be loading up units left and right. Responsibly,
certainly don't overexert yourself in week 1.
No.
It would be my caution for everybody out there.
Bet responsibly. A couple other things. Housekeeping from last week. We're now on YouTube. We can, so you can subscribe to the NESN YouTube page if you want to consume the content that way. There's some, shorter clips from the YouTube or from the podcast. You can watch the entire podcast, the NESN YouTube page. So go do that. subscribe there, or subscribe to wherever you get your podcast, download, rate, and review, do all that fun stuff. Go to NESN.com, the spread, subscribe to the newsletter, or NESNBets.com for literally all of it.
Yeah.
So, I can't help myself. I know I tell people don't do this. I read comments. I just wanted to push back on one comment that I saw on YouTube.
There you go.
And it was about what were we talking about last week? Anthony Richardson.
Yes.
And I had this bold claim that the rookie quarterback might struggle. And one guy randomly was just like, how can these guys, comment on, professional athletes?
NFL quarterback play?
Yeah, and they don't, they can't even run a mile. And I want to push back. I ran 4 this morning. I ran 5 yesterday. I've run 2 half marathons in my life. If there's anything I can do, it might not look it, I can run. So I just wanted to push back on that. I can run. I can't do a whole lot else. And since when does...
We're going to have to start pulling up your Strava times.
That was like...
He gets to get the evidence out there.
Yeah, well, no. If you want to make a claim about Patrick Mahomes, I need to see you do 50 push-ups first. Get out of here, man. It's just the most foolish thing. So I wanted to push back on that.
Yeah,
I run.
You're well within your right.
I can run.
I know.
Not fast.
I've seen you.
So, I think that's something. I'm going to be knee-deep in comments all season. So we'll revisit these as we go.
So chime in.
Yeah. Exactly. So, all right. We'll get into our 3-unit plays. I'm just trying to see if there's any I went back and looked at last year. There were 12 one-score games, 5 games decided by a field goal or less, and 3 overtime games in week 1, which was closer than I feel like in my mind's eye. I look at week 1 as just a handful of blowouts, and there weren't really many of those. I think the most lopsided game last year was the Packers beat the Rams on Monday night. So that's something to consider. And then
a lot of short numbers this week, too.
That, too, yeah.
There's only one game where the spread's higher than 7 at this point?
Yeah, and that double-digit spread, which I think we might get to, is a rarity in week 1 in that Ravens-Texans game. And then since 2005, this is according to BetMGM's John Ewing, week 1 favorites of 6 or more to that point are only covering 43% of the time. So these games, I guess, are closer than I remember them being. So that's something that...
You know what, though? Isn't that representative of, where we're kind of at with the league right now? If you look across...
Especially with, the deterioration of preseason, too. Is that...
And but just, from a purely, a parity standpoint, I guess. I mean, you look at the futures...
Yeah, of course.
Divisional odds is what? None of them are minus 200 or greater. They're all, relatively short odds, which, speaks to kind of the wide openness. I think you get obviously the AFC is pretty stacked, and the NFC, I mean, who the hell knows,
right?
Really?
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, now this will be the week that there's 30-point games and we look like idiots, but that was
which would be a great segue to my first.
What's your 3-unit play, Ricky?
So that
week 1 of
that one game that you mentioned. So we're looking at the highest spread on the board. Ravens laying 10 at home against the Texans.
I love it. You're just I'm going to lay 10 points.
Right out of the gate, right? I mean, this is, admittedly, there's kind of 2 conflicting ideologies at play here, right? The perils of laying such a huge number with a team in week 1 where, whether it's a rust factor or you just simply don't know what you're getting from teams on a year-to-year basis. So, there's certainly an element of that where you're like, all right, I don't feel great about it.
Yeah.
But in my mind's eye, the pros of it far outweigh the cons, and basically it comes down to fading the rookie quarterbacks, right? I mean, I feel like that in and of itself has been fairly profitable, but especially in this situation, it makes me like it a little bit more. Rookie quarterbacks who've started at least 7 games in a season, going back to 2013, are 144, 268, and 2 straight up. So that's a 35% win rate. 190, 222, and 2 against the spread. That's a 46% cover rate. So profitable just in general, I think, to fade rookie quarterbacks who've been pretty much given the keys to the offense. This is why I gave that disclaimer of they started at least 7 games. Is
right.
these are guys that are getting
guys,
a pretty good run, which speaks to the Anthony Richardson thing from a couple of weeks ago. Also, just on the road here in Baltimore. So rookie starters have struggled on the road. Now you're going up against a really good team. Early season as well. Weeks 1 through 3, rookie quarterbacks are 1-15-1 straight up and 4-13 against the spread in their last 17 such games. So there's going to be some growing pains. And while I think in Houston, C.J. Stroud pretty much regarded as the most NFL ready of the QB prospects. This is just a tough matchup, right? I mean, you're facing a team that you kind of know what its floor is going to be in Baltimore, well coached. They tend to start strong. I mean, we've seen, I feel like, multiple times now where Lamar Jackson's come out of the gate fairly strong.
If I could interject.
Sure.
11-4 straight up week 1 under John Harbaugh, 11-4 against the spread under John Harbaugh in week 1.
Right.
So they tend to roll. And,
yeah.
And I think that's a byproduct of, and this is the reason I almost circled this one as well. This is not on my card. Because like the Harbaugh operational factor. Like, this is a team that just made headlines for finally losing the first preseason game in like 10 years. Like, they take this stuff between like August and September seriously.
Yeah, more
and
so
that
than
usually
most.
I think that gives them a slight advantage earlier in the season. Like, they have been playing to win in the preseason, and now they're ready to roll.
Right.
And they've kind of had a history of beating the piss out of bad teams under John Harbaugh as well.
And this is a difficult thing too. And like a team like the Texans, for instance, like if you're high on the Texans, relatively speaking, like going into this season, you kind of got to separate week 1 and like week 2, week 3 from the totality of the season. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's one thing, like sort of a trap we fall into sometimes. We get these reads on these teams, and then week 1 we immediately want to show that like we have that read. So it's like, I'm just going to blindly back the Texans. And when you see that number, it was like, oh, this would be a good opportunity to kind of show my faith in the Texans here. But then the more you peel it back, and for all the reasons I mentioned with the rookie quarterback, like I just think if this team finds its stride at all, it's probably going to be in that middle portion of the season. Like, now you're going to have, not only a rookie quarterback, but that entire the entire coaching staff was basically overhauled.
Yeah.
So, I think you're going to see some stability. You're going to see this team make strides this year, major infusion of talent through the draft. But I think you're more apt to get that from weeks 8 to 14 or whatever. And then they'll probably tail off towards the end too, once fatigue becomes a factor for a lot of these rookies playing in their first NFL season. So this to me just seems like a week where they come out, Baltimore kind of flexes his muscle a bit and, wins by a couple of touchdowns.
After all I said, though, about like them being operationally sound and, with it and ready to roll when the season starts, it is interesting. I think it was Mike Reese, ESPN, made this point. Last year, teams who didn't play their quarterbacks at all in the preseason went 3-8 straight up in week 1, and Baltimore is one of those teams this year. So it is something to keep in mind, especially considering how it ended last year. New offensive coordinator. I guess that's the only place I'd push back is like, is this going to be ready to operate at the highest level right away, given how much turnover there is? Odell Beckham, blah blah blah. But I also could see this being like a 24-17 game, and then Lamar breaking a 65-yard run, and he scores himself or they find a way to punch it in to put it like a 31-17 game that was probably closer than the final score indicates.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is just Houston putting up enough points to stay competitive in this. I mean, in addition to the rookie quarterback and the coaching turnover, like they're already dealing with a whole bunch of injuries along that offensive line. Like they invested in that line.
It's unfortunate, yeah, exactly.
Pretty well this offseason. So like that was something you could point to as another sort of launching pad for them to get better. And then it's just been nothing but injuries throughout preseason and the training camp. So just I think this is a team that will improve this year, but it's going to take a few weeks.
Fair enough. Yeah, like I said, I looked at it. I just eventually talked myself out of it. So, so for my 3-unit play, I'm taking the Titans. I'm gonna take the 3 points at New Orleans. An interesting matchup of two teams that should contend for playoff spots here. I guess it's, we talk about this every year. It's hard to really handicap week 1 without really knowing what we're looking at or knowing what to expect. I default to two things typically is, the coaching matchup, and I guess I do kind of pick and choose which trends I like, but like,
that's what
I think but I look at the trends that feel like they back up the coaching thing, if that makes any sense. So I just look at this on paper. I need to see it from the Saints. They went out and got Derek Carr, which seems like a massive upgrade over whatever they were rolling out last year. But I'm still not sold on Dennis Allen as a head coach, and for good reason. I mean, he was horrible at various points in his career, up to now. But you look at the fact that let's see, where is I gonna pull my notes? They just haven't been. He just hasn't covered much at all. He covers just 40% of the time in his entire career, and he's only been a favorite 12 times, and he's 4-8 as a favorite. You look at the Saints too, like playing at home, a little bit overblown. They're 4-9 straight up at the Superdome in the last 13 home games. And on the other side, this is a cliche at this point. Mike Vrabel, great underdog pick to back. 22-9 against the spread as an underdog of a field goal or more. It's just he seems to get his team up for these sorts of spots. I think they're underdogs in like their first 4 games of the season too, so they're coming in with this chip on their shoulder. I look at the fact too that one of the biggest issues with the Titans last year was injuries. They had horrible injury luck. I think they lost the most man games of any team in the entire league to injuries. Granted, the Saints lost a bunch as well, but this is the healthiest as you're going to get the Titans, especially if Treylon Burks is able to play. If not, I don't like this as much. But and then you look at going back to the Saints, Derek Carr might be good for them in the long run. I think they're going to find some success with the weapons that they have around him. I just wonder if that maybe takes a little more time than they want. So I just think this is a good spot to kind of grab the points with a well-coached, competent team, as healthy as they're going to be all year, a quarterback who doesn't light the world on fire in Ryan Tannehill, but he's at least responsible. I don't think he's going to make a bunch of really bad plays against a very good defense. I just think this kind of comes down to the wire, maybe a field goal at the end. So I'll just grab these points. I liked it a lot more before I came in here and realized that this is like one of the more popular underdog picks of the entire week. But I think that the Titans are a team that I'm buying stock in this year. I think they go toe-to-toe with this, and I think they've got a chance to win it late. And the other thing, too, is like Derek Carr late in a game, if it's close, like there's a chance for an interception somewhere there. It's just he hasn't been great either. I saw this Action Network. He's just 17-29-1 against the spread as a favorite. That's the 4th worst in the last 20 years, ahead of just Carson Palmer, Jay Cutler, and Matt Ryan, which is a list that you probably don't want to be part of. So just give me the points here with the Titans, and hopefully we live to see another day.
This is these two teams are kind of fascinating to me, like from a season-long standpoint.
They're just like average teams that probably look better because of the divisions they play in.
Right. But I also feel like there's probably I'm with you. I think Tennessee might be a little undervalued, whereas New Orleans I think might be overvalued.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are looking at New Orleans and saying like, now that Tampa Bay has fallen down to where they are, who's the next team up? And I think naturally you look to the Saints, and then you factor in that they have the weakest schedule in the NFL. So it's like you kind of expect it to be a little bit of a cakewalk to the playoffs. Whereas if you one of these,
no Jaguars in their division like with the Titans have.
Right.
So I can see why there'd be a little bit of polar opposites of teams that seem pretty evenly matched.
But the Saints are a tough one too, because it's like they've underachieved in recent years relative to the talent level, and also like they're kind of an analytics darling for the last few years, especially on the defensive side. And you're just like, when are you going to put it together? And now it almost feels like it's too late. Whereas on the Tennessee side, like if I'm looking beyond Jacksonville in that division, like my eyes are going right to Tennessee, right? And largely because of the reason that you mentioned, it's the coaching. Yep. Like if these two teams, from a talent standpoint, I don't think there's a huge gap between them, but and they're also in comparable situations. But I think the coaching in Tennessee could take them to another level, whereas the coaching in New Orleans could bring them back.
Yeah, that's
knock
a fair
them
point.
Down a level,
or at least put a ceiling on what they can be.
Yeah, and ultimately the gap between these two teams at the end of the year, you're like, this could have gone the opposite direction if you had switched those two head coaches.
And I think we have to have you can't have this conversation without mentioning DeAndre Hopkins, who the Titans were able to pick up in the offseason. I don't think it's a great matchup this week against New Orleans. The Saints have a pretty good secondary. I just think that having him on the field opens up a lot for the Titans in other areas of their offense. I think Derrick Henry is going to be the benefactor of that. Where you look at last year, the Saints, you could run on them. They allowed 130 rushing yards or more in 9 of their games. They went 4-5 in those games. So I think there's a chance that they can kind of run all over them. I think you could probably go back and look at some of the Falcons film from last year or whatever. I think it's a big day for Derrick Henry. And if he's running wild too, that kind of keeps the clock moving, keeps it tighter. I think so. I just think there's a lot that points to the Saints here. So.
All right, I'm gonna stick in the AFC South for my 2-unit pick. Jaguars, Colts. I'm going to take the under. 45.5 the total's at right now. A lot of the same logic, basically, with the just fading a rookie quarterback in his NFL debut.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about Anthony Richardson a few weeks ago, and I think your pick was that he would lead the league in interceptions. Yep. So, like, I mean, look, there's a world where he has a decent chance to thrive behind that offensive line, which, I mean, vastly underperformed last season relative to, I think, the talent level they showed in previous years. And so maybe there's a way to win there. He racks up all these rushing yards, whatever. I just think that's a tough way to live. And now, no Jonathan Taylor, a wide receiver group that's pretty unproven beyond maybe like Michael Pittman Jr. So there's, like I said, a lot of the same logic with the whole just unproven commodities in that offense.
Yeah, but
I don't feel great picking a side in this game, though, because there's still like one, I'll get to this in a little bit with my 1 unit pick, but generally lean towards taking the, home divisional underdogs.
Yep.
Like that is like the first thing I look at in week 1, I feel like. Regardless of like how you feel about the two teams, like that is just, for me, it's difficult to go against that. So that's one. Also, I don't know. I've still got some questions about Jacksonville. Like, I feel like they've kind of been anointed the class of the AFC South, and it almost feels like it's just by virtue of being in that division, right? Like, sure, they came on strong down the stretch last season, but I know that there was a lot of those games where they were facing terrible quarterback competition. So my questions with them, reside on the defensive side, also the offensive line. So I just feel like, while I'm pretty low on Indianapolis in general for this entire season, this goes back to like what we were talking about, like separating your season-long outlook versus your week 1 outlook. And with Indy, it's like I could see a scenario where they sort of muck it up, place an inordinate amount of pressure on Trevor Lawrence to thrive on the road in a week 1 divisional setting. Like, this game could get a little bit ugly. So that to me is why I'm leaning the under, as opposed to taking the side. Do I think the Colts are going to win outright? Not necessarily, but it wouldn't stun me. So instead, I'll just I'll meet you in the middle, and I'll look at the total, and I'll take the under, because 45.5 seems a little high. If this turns into a little bit of it turns into the train wreck that it could for a rookie quarterback.
Kind of feels like the 2020 game. I was just looking this up. I remember that for some reason. I think I made like the Colts my lock. It was when the Colts were heavy favorites in 2020.
Yeah.
And I think they got upended by the Jaguars. And it was like a 27-20. And now, like,
shoes on the other foot.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of wild how quickly that changed. So
Colts won 13-1 against the spread in week 1 since 2008.
What? 13-1.
I
was like 113-1. That's pretty impressive.
Since 2008. So that's a slow starts.
That is, which is weird too, because there's been regime changes. I don't know. And a lot of that goes back. Maybe I'm just gonna blame the owner as much as.
I mean, like, obviously take a trend like that with a grain of salt. Like, so much changes year to year, but especially with that outfit last year versus this year,
right?
I mean, it's a totally different situation. But just want to let.
Okay. For my 2-unit play, I'm going to the NFC North. Yeah, let's do this. Packers at the Bears. I'm going to take the under of 43. I just think you've got two relatively defensive-minded teams who have a lot of questions to answer about their offense. 43 is a low number, but you go back to last year, the Bears played 7 games in which 45 points or fewer were scored. Fewer. The Packers had 10 of those games. And then in the 2 games that they played each other, the Packers held the Bears to a combined 29 points. I think the Packers defense, despite all of their issues with run defense or with stopping the run last year, they matched up pretty well with the Bears. And, you go back and look at those games and say, well, okay, it's going to be tougher for the Packers to beat the Bears without Aaron Rodgers. And so, like, that's the other thing, right, is we're taking Aaron Rodgers out of this equation too. And I tend to believe in Jordan Love, but the sample size is so small. And it's just, there are going to be growing pains at times. And I feel like week 1 at Chicago, against a team with a little bit of buzz, a defensive-minded head coach, and a pretty strong defense, this could be a tough spot for Love and the Packers. You look at what, I was reading up on the Bears defense, and Eberflus said that they want to play a variation of coverages. Obviously, everybody does, but I think they feel confident in their personnel to be able to throw a bunch of different looks at them. You go out, look at what they did, and they went out and got Yannick Ngakoue to kind of pass, bolster their pass rush. They did not get home. They don't blitz a ton. So if they can kind of, if he makes an immediate impact, they find ways to get after Love and anybody really without having to send a ton of extra pressure. I think it really fits what they want to do defensively. I think this is a good opportunity for them to do that, kind of confuse Love if they can. I saw this stat too from Nick Whalen of the Bear With Us podcast, which I assume is a podcast about the Chicago Bears. So this is a guy I saw on the internet. So
it's about different types of bears.
That would be even better. And he just happened to,
pandas
and koalas.
Yeah.
He just happens to tweet out Jordan Love stats every once in a while, but. No, this is a fair point. Jordan Love in the preseason had 19 dropbacks. He had a clean pocket in 17 of those. If you go back and look at his numbers from the limited regular season action plus preseason for his career, this is all according to this one random stranger on the internet. He has completed 67% of his passes with a clean pocket and just 38% under pressure with just one touchdown and 2 interceptions. Nothing groundbreaking there, right? Quarterbacks don't play better typically when they're under pressure, but that's a pretty sharp drop off for a guy like that who hasn't completely seen it at this level. So that could be tough. And I do think, the Packers have some question marks on their defense in terms of how they're going to just run it. Like, I'm not the biggest Joe Barry fan, the defensive coordinator, but I did think it was interesting in kind of reading around. Packers defensive tackle Kenny Clark said they've got a different plan this year. That's literally all he said. So, I mean, I guess that's a step in the right direction in terms of limiting the rushing attack. I think, again, this feels like a 23-17 game one way or the other. And if that's the case, we'll go under with the 43. Also, looked like maybe a little bit of weather, rain and wind. Certainly nothing like there was for that 49ers game last year in Chicago, but there's a off chance that we're trying to forecast this on Tuesday, so it'll probably snow by the time Sunday rolls around. There's a lot pointing to the under here for me, so I'll go under the 43 and hold my nose that this game is a throwback NFC North showdown between the Bears and the Tigers.
That's a tough division to handicap.
Yep.
I know, like, even going into our season preview episode, I'm like, which of these teams is going to emerge? Because, I mean, it feels like the Vikings are heading towards, I don't know, like a rebuild kind of, right? Like, they're just kind of there. Like,
yeah.
I think that their team, they overachieved last year, like, significantly.
Yep.
Probably going to take a step back this year, and it's like, well, who steps up? And, like, I think that, again, like, the natural inclination is you saw what the Lions did last year, and you think, oh, maybe they take this over. And then you look at the Bears with Justin Fields. Like, I feel like the people are sleeping on the Packers a little bit.
I agree.
I know this is music to your ears, but
every time I think of that, though, I do come back to the fact that, like, as good as I think Jordan Love can be, it'd be foolish to not expect some sort of growing pains.
And also, anybody who says they know what they're getting out of Jordan Love is lying right through their teeth.
Right, and we have this conversation literally 2 weeks ago about, like, the fact that people wanted to judge him on that Chiefs game from 2020. Like, it's still in people's minds. It's so, like, we're going to, like, just wait. We're going to have some evidence very soon.
Yeah. Like, well, we're very impatient,
yeah,
as is everybody else. So it's understandable. But it is, like, he, to me, is, like, the man of mystery coming into this season. That, like, especially being in the NFC, not even just that division, but the conference at large, of, like, who's gonna take that next step? Because the door is open, and, like, if he comes out and all of a sudden he proves more than viable, it's like the conversation is gonna change pretty quick.
Yeah, they went 8-9 last year with broken thumb, stubborn, aging Aaron Rodgers. So, like,
is it crazy to think that they're better off now, having just, like, ripped the Band-Aid off?
Slightly in the very short term, but, like, they could go 9-8.
Like, something about it just felt stale, right? And now it's...
Yeah, I don't want to dump on Aaron Rodgers because it's going to sound bitter, but he had a broken thumb last year. He's getting older. he didn't want to play. I think the offense is going to look smoother this year. You're not going to get the miracle plays that he's want to do, but he's going to run the offense.
Like by and large, that's sustainable anyways. You know
Correct.
what I mean? So I'm with you. I just feel like there's a little bit of an infusion of energy for.
I agree.
Better way of putting it.
Buying what you're saying.
I don't need to tell you.
Preaching to the choir.
I don't need to tell you.
So, what's your 1 unit play?
All right, 1 unit. So I'm going to circle back to what I was saying about the divisional home underdogs in week 1 because I feel like we're both sort of on the same page with this. So I'm going to take the Browns getting 2.5 points at home against the Bengals, which is really tying together another talking point that we had from our season preview episode where I think I'm higher than you on the Browns and lower than you on the Bengals. So this is just a nice like
spread bowl in week 1.
Yeah, this is a nice way to just tie everything together. But to the divisional home underdog thing, 25-15 against the spread over the last 5 seasons. So I just like
divisional home underdogs.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I just like I like where the number's at too. 2.5. Like that's almost a coin flip game. So in general, without even factoring in really the strengths and weaknesses of each of these teams, I like the spot. But then also, you start to factor some other things. And you mentioned like the quarterbacks not playing in the preseason and coming out struggling a little bit. Like if we see that from Joe Burrow after being slowed with the injury, like would that surprise you? I mean, I look back to, was it week 1 last year when he threw the 4 picks against the Steelers and they kind of stumbled out of the gate. Like Cincinnati to me feels like a team that they take a little bit to get going. Kind of the opposite of Baltimore in that regard. I think Cincinnati is a chance you see some defensive regression. Lost both their starting safeties over the offseason. Pretty big hit. And I think on the other side of the coin, I think Cleveland, I think you're going to see a lot of improvement from them defensively. So I think this is a matchup where you see the short number, and if you're just kind of going back to what we saw from these two teams last year, it's natural to be like, well, I'll just lay less than a field goal, whereas that 2.5 is, kind of bait you in. But I'm going the other way. I'm gonna take the points. This is a nice little AFC North game right out of the chute.
I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. We can talk aesthetics. Aesthetics. Easy for me to say. I don't like all the orange in this one. That's going to be my. No. This is an late October game. Obviously, this is Halloween. Maybe the rematch is around Halloween.
I was gonna actually text you the other night about the aesthetics of that LSU Florida State game.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as good as
because like the contrast in that was pretty sweet. You had a lot going on. It was like, this is classic college football. In fact, the 2 top 10 teams.
I'm down with any color matchup as long as orange isn't involved. So maybe I'm actually talking myself out of this one. So I'm probably.
We should. It's the Halloween Bowl. We should wear costumes for this game.
It is like, it's like, do you even like football? Like I'm just like, if it's too hot outside and one team's wearing orange or both teams are wearing orange, I'm probably actually not going to watch, even if it's the Super Bowl. So
it's too much orange in the NFL.
Yeah. All right. I'll go quick. Similarly, I'm in the same.
Do you have any leftover thoughts on that game?
On the Orange Bowl?
Is it just like the actual game?
Oh, no, I thought you hit on a lot of it. Did you mention I kind of spaced out. Did you mention the Bengals offensive line?
It was getting there, yeah.
Are they good? Like, they're not very good still,
not
right?
very
There's
good.
question marks, so I think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that kind of ties into, like, if Cleveland's much improved defensively this year, it's largely going to be up front.
Yeah.
And going up against that Cincinnati offense feels like a total mismatch. Actually, on the trenches on both sides could be a real win for Cleveland in this game.
Yeah, actually, the more I think about it, I like this one. So, good pick for you.
That's always a dead sentence.
There you go, sorry.
Both on the same side.
My 1 unit play, the same idea. And I went to the NESN Bets live odds page, checked the consensus. I'm getting 3.5 here, and I'm going to roll with that, even if it's already changed in other places. Taking the Giants, getting 3.5 at home against Dallas, NFC East matchup. This is Sunday night, obviously, because we can't have week 1 in the NFL without the Giants and Cowboys playing on Sunday night. I like good coaching. Very limited sample size, obviously, with Brian Daboll. But on the other side, Mike McCarthy. Dallas in week 1 under McCarthy, 0-3. They haven't won in week 1 yet under him. They're 1-2 against the spread. Giants last year 10-2 against the spread as an underdog. You go into the divisional home underdog stuff that applies here as well. You look at the fact that Cowboys offensive guard Tyler Smith left practice with a hamstring injury earlier this week. If he's hurt, that's a huge blow against the front that's led by Dexter Lawrence, who's going to be right in the middle, and he was obviously a major game record last year. But they also went out and added friend of the program, Raheem Nunez-Roches,
hell yeah,
and A'Shawn Robinson in the offseason. So I think the Giants disrupt this game up front. Daniel Jones, jury's still out on him, but you just look at he's got game-breaking ability. I think you've got a whole offseason to kind of prepare for that Cowboys defense. I think Daboll has a few wrinkles. I think they're the better coach team. They're playing at home. They're catching the points. This feels relatively elementary, but that's my middle name. So I will just take those points and not think twice about it, I suppose. And the Cowboys have had a lot of success against the Giants. They swept them last year in 2 games that weren't as close as they were, and one of them they were without Dak Prescott. But I just think the situation points to the Giants here for me. So I'll grab the points and just hope that this comes down to a field goal.
Yeah. No, another classic example of like separating your week 1 thoughts from your season long thoughts.
Yeah.
I think by and large I'm pretty out on the Giants this year.
I agree. And I have the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl. So
right. Right. Yeah. So like this is what you're predicting for week 1 is going to vary greatly from when we're sitting here in the middle of November.
Yep.
We're doing our previewing the Thanksgiving Day slate.
Opening football cards, doing whatever it is. All right, you want to talk about the Patriots game real quick?
Yeah, all right, real quick.
So let me just look up the numbers kind of moved a
Do that for the local audience, if you will.
And I mean it's just funny. We could pretend we're from Oakland. I guess Oakland doesn't count because they don't have a team.
Maybe when we talk about the weather though, that might be a giveaway. All you got to really do is just look at the nationwide forecast, and you can kind of pinpoint where we are.
Yeah, right. So this is kind of flopped all over the place. Maybe not all over the place, but it moved a little bit. But it's at 4 now. The Eagles are coming in here laying 4. Total's 45. I don't know. The Eagles, if you want to look at the fact that Super Bowl hangover, you also look at the fact that Jalen Hurts didn't play in the preseason. There's some stuff pointing to just intangible sorts of things. If we weren't going to talk about this game, I probably would have made it one of my top 2 picks. I think the Eagles beat the piss out of them.
Run them out of the building.
I agree.
Absolutely run them out of the building. That's what I mean. I'm with you. It's just I
don't know how they block them up front.
Isn't this basically the Patriots matchup against Buffalo? Going into those once you.
This is the 2 things that have given them a lot of problems, right? The offense, they can't block anybody, and here comes maybe the best front in the entire NFL, and they've struggled with mobile quarterbacks, and here comes the poster child for that right now in the NFL.
Yeah, this is.
I just don't see how
the exact type of team that over the past couple of years, every time you sort of start to buy into the Patriots, and you're like, well, maybe they can. Yep. Maybe they've turned that corner, and then here comes a legitimate, Super Bowl caliber team that just knocks you down a peg. And I mean, why would I take the Patriots in this?
So maybe the only case is the Patriots.
Tom Brady buzz.
I was that might work against them. Who knows?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too. If Mac Jones completes 3 of his first 9 passes and maybe throws one really bad one, and all of a sudden the Brady chants start, and now we're all going to hell. Or is the Zappy chance? I don't even know.
Matt Corral
chance. It just feels like there's
there will be chance.
There
will be chance.
That is a pretty uneven bar for them to kind of maneuver. You look at that. You look at the fact that they just, like I said, they can't block anybody up front. The only thing I was going to say, the Patriots defense maybe can keep them in this game, and that's how they find a way. But Mac Jones's numbers when they give up 20 or more points, he just doesn't win. So again, if this gets in anything resembling a shootout, it feels a lot like the Baltimore game last year to me, where it's they can go blow for maybe a quarter or 2, but all of a sudden that other team finds that other gear, and they just can't match that. And I don't think the regime change, I don't think the personnel change really puts the Patriots in a position to kind of go toe-to-toe in anything resembling a shootout with Philly.
It's a bad matchup for the Patriots D too, probably. I mean, you consider the depth of pass catchers that the Eagles have. This isn't a team that you have one number 1 and then a bunch of just kind of fringe guys. They have they have pass catchers across the board and just weapons across the board.
Not only that, did the Patriots get measurably faster in the offseason on the defense? No. So now you get the lateral thing going side to side with this read option. I don't know.
I think just in general, the Patriots just aren't that good. And then you factor in the matchup, and there's just so many different ways that the Eagles could win this game. Whereas the Patriots, it's going to require just a total prayer.
Yeah, I guess the only thing is like maybe the rust, right, for the Eagles. Like if this was week 8, it'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like hide the women and children. This could get really ugly. So maybe there's something there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a late game too, 4:30 game.
Yeah.
Not that affects anything, but it's just like it doesn't feel like an appropriate spot for this. So that's the Brady effect. All right. Do you want to do a little throwback show and tell before we get out of here?
I think it would be a nice gesture.
Okay.
I'll let you kick it off, though.
All right.
It was your idea.
So,
for those who don't know, by the way, let me just paint the scene. So, like, the show and tell, I don't know when we started doing that, when we went away from it, but it was a thing in years past.
Yeah.
We basically bring in an item, and then you use that item and incorporate it into
a storyline, an
take,
opinion, a take,
something. I don't know why the hell we started that. But
I have no
nevertheless,
idea.
It became a thing, and then now it's back.
Yeah,
with a vengeance. Because you texted me about this today, and you were like, "Should we do show and tell today?" And I was a little apprehensive at first because I didn't have an item. But the more I thought of it, I said, "You know what? I'll find something," as we always do. And I also knew that you probably had one.
Exactly
you had one up your sleeve. You had something in the holster. And it looks like you got a can.
So I went over to Target earlier. I wanted to find an eye patch because I thought the aesthetics of me wearing a Pirates eye patch would be great.
Yep.
Could not find that.
That would have worked well with our Halloween game.
Correct. Yeah.
Talk. Costume.
I got a mixer of margarita. Just the mixer, and tried to take that to self-check.
Yeah. And
you can't self-check booze. There was no booze in it. So okay. I don't know what it was. So I'm not going to go deal with a human, of course. So I put that back, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm leaving Target without the two things that I was looking for. Luckily, this was in my car. This is my wife's. It's a pina colada. Let's just pretend for the sake of argument that this is
nice little beach
well, I don't want to give
cocktail.
away any free ads. I don't want to offend all of the sponsors of the spread. So
sure.
This says pina colada, but I'm going to pretend that it's a margarita, and it's a way to pay tribute to Jimmy Buffett, who died over the weekend at age 76. And I tie this into Aaron Rodgers. And so,
okay.
One of Jimmy Buffett's most famous songs, according to one ranking of his 3 best songs, was "Come Monday," which is one of my favorites. Come Monday night, the Aaron Rodgers will make his debut with the Jets. So there's that.
Connecting all these dots.
Correct.
All right, I got you.
And so another one
Buffett, Rodgers, come Monday. We're there Monday.
Another one of my favorite songs of from Jimmy Buffett is "Pirate Looks at 40." And Aaron Rodgers turns 40 next month. I would think he would probably call himself a pirate. That feels like a thing that he would do. This is a song that is, according to Wikipedia, contains the bittersweet confession of a modern-day washed-up drug smuggler as he looks back on the first 40 years of his life, expresses lament that his preferred vocation of piracy on the high seas was long gone by the time he was born, and ponders his future. In the song, it says, "Yes, I am a pirate, 200 years too late. The cannons don't thunder, there's nothing to plunder. I'm over 40, victim of fate, arriving too late, arriving too late." I wonder if Aaron Rodgers arrived a little too late to New York. I'm not buying the Jets. I don't think the Jets are going to be as good as everybody else thinks they are. I give Aaron Rodgers the benefit of the doubt last year with a broken thumb, but I think that his bones are getting a little older. He's 40. I know he does ayahuasca and all that stuff. They can't block either. They've got issues up front. I think they have a real tough week 1 game against Buffalo. I think they've got a really tough schedule. I think they are an 8-9 team and probably miss the playoffs. Or I could see them going 10-7. I just don't think it goes as well as anybody says, or as a lot of people think it will. And I think there's a chance it goes horribly. So
I'm with you. And I'm out on them this week, too. I think we're venturing into the area with Buffalo where we might be sleeping on them a little bit.
I think that's fair, yeah. So, I'm not going to drink this because
I have a nice
don't drink.
It could spruce up lunch a little bit.
This looks terrible. Not again. I don't want to besmirch a future sponsor, but
you should have got a blender over there. Like the Jimmy Buffett blenders.
That's true. I'm literally like walking around. I'm walking around Target with the app open, like searching Margaritaville, parrot, eye patch. Look, I was even looking for a medical eye patch. I couldn't find anything.
That's what it takes.
So you go to Target in a college town on September 5th, there's going to be nothing there. So lesson learned.
Well, that was a lovely homage.
Thank you.
So all right, my show and tell. Mine's very small, as you can see. I fit them in my pocket.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
I got a couple of fuses here.
Fuses. Sure. Yeah,
pulled them straight out of the Jeep.
Okay.
So
I want to put them back in before you
go. No. So there's a reason behind this.
Okay.
So last week, 4 a.m.
That's early.
My horn outside my place going bananas. Absolutely bananas. So I'm like, I didn't know it was me at first, right? So I'm looking out the window. I'm like, who's the jerk with the horn?
Of course.
So, I get out there. I'm like, rubbing my eyes. Like, got my sweat shorts on. I'm like, who's the jerk? I look over, the lady outside. She's peeking out the blinds. The other lady comes down in her nightgown. She's like trying to open her doors. So we were all just out there, very confused, flustered. Realized it was my Jeep.
Yep.
So the horn, I'm like, what do I do with that hour? Like, I don't know the solution in the moment to that, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's not a situation you run into every day. Your horn just
going
off.
It's tough to just be like sitting there Googling it and you're on your phone at 4 a.m. Like, time's of the essence.
It would do it for 10 seconds, stop for 2 to 3 minutes, right. Do it for another 10 seconds. But I can't let that ride till the morning.
No,
you know what I mean?
Really.
So and I'm having crazy bad anxiety.
I'm just get in it and drive.
That's exactly what I did. So the lady, I'm like, I'll handle this. That's what I said. I'll handle this.
I just gotta go find a field.
I will handle this. So I get in it. As I get in it, I'm pulling away. Horn's still going off, blaring. I drive it over to the Stop and Shop parking lot around the corner from my house. Drive it to the middle of the parking lot so I can get it.
Has to be as far away
as far away from my house as possible. Abandoned it. I said I will deal with this in the morning. So I get back to my house and I'm like, because I live right around the corner. So I'm like, all right, I'll deal with this in the morning. But then I'm also like, oh no, I can't sleep. With knowing that that's probably going off around the corner. Call AAA. Guy comes out. I tried to explain the situation to him. He goes, huh, that's weird. I'm like,
always what you want to hear from somebody.
It is weird. And then he told me that I should probably YouTube that. And I was like, yeah, that's probably a good solution. But anyways, come to find out, the solution, my solution, was to just rip the fuses out in the morning.
That's smart.
So that's why I have these. Now I need to get these replaced because I'm hornless, which was a big time problem when I was sitting behind the lady at a green light earlier this morning, and I was waving, trying to get her attention.
Just throwing tennis balls at her.
I was looking at the guy behind me, like, "Hey, buddy, can you help me out here?
Can you honk your horn,
use
sir?
your functioning horn."
Turn around and flip them off.
Yeah,
just to provoke them.
So I got fuses. And why do I have these fuses?
Yeah.
Well, I am just advising all of you to bet responsibly and not have a short fuse after week 1. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint.
Is that even the same kind of fuse?
Well, it is for the purposes of show and tell. We gotta,
of course,
you know, we gotta. When life hands you lemons, you gotta make something.
You
throw them in your Jimmy Buffett blender.
See what comes out. Stop and Shop and abandon it.
Yes. So, if you have a bad week 1, don't blow your fuse.
Just pull the fuses out and
keep on moving.
Proceed with.
Yeah, pull the fuses out, drive it to the nearest parking lot because better days are ahead. I can promise you that. You just gotta get through the night though. That's a tricky one. That was legit fight or flight situation.
Did you go back to sleep?
I mean,
I would be up.
Eventually,
let's go for a run. You should have gone for a run.
I know.
And then you could have talked so much trash about any quarterback you wanted.
It should have just drove around it too. Imagine.
I was like, you just driving into. I mean, it's a Jeep, so you could have taken it and just driving it on the beach.
That honestly was
driving in the woods.
And I look back, and it did it earlier in the night too. So, but I at that time I didn't know it was the Jeep. So now I'm really going back, and I'm like, I was probably sitting here in the office. And it was probably blasting out there. And they're like, "Who's the idiot with the Jeep?" But never got an email or anything about it. So
that's good. Yeah, it was the person with the Jeep that's beeping. Please fix it. Take it to the local grocery store.
It was tough sledding.
All right, well, that's a good place
to the man I am today.
to end our bet responsibly. Check your fuses.
Please. That's all. All
right, this is fun. We'll do it again next week. That's Ricky. I'm Mike. This is Spread. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again for week 2. Bye-bye.